All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. My name is Larry Berlinski. If you don't know me, I am the chairman of the Constitution Party of New Jersey for now until everybody gets disgruntled with me. But as always, we'll get started with the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the prayer. Dear Lord, please give those of us that are constitutionally minded and want to restore a constitutional republic to our nation the strength, the will, and the knowledge to convince and change the hearts and minds of those who do not. It is only through you that we'll be able to accomplish this. Amen. All right. All right, the treasurer's report. I actually have that here on my phone. The treasurer is unfortunately taken ill, so I will read the report that she gave me last night. The bank balance is currently $1,056.63. Expenses since our last meeting was $29.85 for the hosting of our webpage. We sent $600 to the National towards our 2014 $1,000 state assessment. And I have a list of some of the contributors. Thank you to Marty, Lowell and Dixie Patterson, Anthony Diorio, Roseanne, and Cal. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm baking English muffin.
Bacon down here.
Oh, of course, I encourage
English
everybody
muffin,
to
I got an English muffin here.
English muffin
participate and support our hosts. Please purchase a meal so that they have a reason to keep letting us come back. Okay.
We introduce any new people?
Sure. If, Cal, would you like to take care of that then?
You just go around and
Just go around the table and introduce yourself. If you're representing yourself, represent yourself or a group.
Hi, Frank Catone, Constitution Party Secretary, right? And some Tea Party groups. Some Tea Party groups stop New Jersey corruption, but that's it.
Thank you, Rick.
I'm Rick Van Glad from Denville, part of the New Jersey Taxpayers Association.
Peg Van Glan's wife.
Ted and Nancy Peterson. We're from Toms River, and we were founders of the Ocean County Citizens for Freedom.
Bob Bloomer from Toms River.
Bill Nicolaus from Belford. I'm just checking things out because I'm sick of Republicans and the Democrats. I'm not representing them, but I am a member of the NRA and the John Birch Society.
Cleve Titus, Linden, New Jersey.
Robert Goldberg, First Amendment TV, also affiliated with the East Jersey Tea Party.
Diane Sayre, Bogota, New Jersey, with LaRouche Political Action Committee.
Frank Gonzalez, Obama Aware Group. No, just joking.
Well, we are aware.
Bayshore Tea
We'll
Party.
let you talk. You just might not have a.
Bayshore Tea Party.
Barbara Gonzalez, co-founder of Bayshore Tea Party Group.
Roseanne Salinitri, Skylands Tea Party, New Jersey Tea Party Caucus, Black Robe Regiment, you pick it.
Paul Surson, West Carteret, New Jersey. I know Cal through the Tea Party.
Marty Buffon, God's Country in Sussex County.
Marty Buffon was our past chairman before Larry took over. I'm Cal Wharton, vice chairman of the Constitution Party, member of the Middlesex County Tea Party, friend of Monmouth County Tea Party, and other Roseanne Salinitri's group. Roseanne, by the way, ran on our ticket a few years ago, and of course, we want more people going as Constitution Party members so that we can get the name out there. There is a big difference between us and the Republicans. And actually, if you read our platform, it's much closer to your ideologies any of the party.
Except for the Obama group, of course.
We're taking notes.
I did send out the minutes in an email, part of the invite. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read it. I unfortunately forgot to bring a hard copy. I would like to have someone propose that we just approve the minutes that have been put out. If anybody wants to propose and second that, I appreciate it.
Well, I wrote it, can I propose it?
You can propose it, sure, why not?
I propose it be accepted as read by whoever. I'll pass my copy around if you need to, you haven't read it.
Um,
I second it.
All right. I will afford everybody the opportunity to read through it so we can have a little bit of discussion later. We'll shelve that to the remarks section at the end, and then we'll actually have the vote at that time. All right, old business. Fall campaigns 2014. Here in New Jersey, we didn't field many candidates. However, let not your heart be troubled. Around the country, the Constitution Party and its affiliates didn't fare too poorly for what is considered an independent or a third party. Even some Republicans went as far as to endorse some of our candidates in more conservative states, particularly out in Alaska. Some of the election results are actually on the website. In Alaska, for instance, we had 3 candidates running in the state and local levels. Some of the more notable ones, Christian Fioravanti, he garnered 35% of the vote in his district, which is respectable, particularly for a third party.
What office?
Not listed. This is from the Constitution Party website directly. U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is an affiliate of the Constitution Party, they ran 27 candidates in Michigan. And Christine Schwartz got a total of almost 85,000 votes in her statewide race for the Michigan Board of Regents. A lot of us forget that school boards are elected government bodies. We can run candidates in those bodies and change things like Common Core. In Minnesota, Bruce Johnson, candidate for Dakota County Commissioner, placed second in a field of 4 candidates. So even a second place finish is better than what a lot of other candidates can boast. I have the complete list here. I'll pass this around so you can look at it, but it's all good news as far as an up-and-coming political party. I'd like to start making some noise here in New Jersey this year, and we'll talk about that a little while later. But I'll pass this around. In New Jersey, well, actually, that's going to be for New Year's. All right.
You can mention Larry for New Jersey, just for the new people, maybe that we did run some just candidates.
In the past, we have run candidates. This past election year, we did not. But as mentioned, Roseanne did run. We had
Sheriff.
Anthony DiOrio.
Anthony ran for sheriff up in Hudson County.
Steve, Bill, Barbara knows this. Steve, Bill, and I ran. We did the whole LD 13 Senate and Assembly for 1% of the vote, but so
Only
we're
9
trying.
million ago.
Just that there's no hope. We're trying.
Yeah, no, it's important to remember that even though we may not have a strong showing at this time, you take a look at the number of registered voters versus how many people are out there, number of registered voters versus the people who actually vote. We don't need a large percentage of the population to actually get a candidate. So a little bit can go a long way, and it is achievable. but I'll talk about a little bit more about that later. We did have a national meeting. Cal attended, if you'd like to speak.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, if you'd like.
Cincinnati was, the Constitution Party National has a national committee meeting. If you're on the national committee, even if you're not, you can go twice a year. This past one was in Cincinnati, where we discussed a few important items. One was the formation of the national Veterans Association. There's some veterans, some retired officers from the Army, Marines, different branches of the service that want to form a National Veterans Association within our party, getting veterans to maybe join the party, support back and forth. They put forth a proposal at the Cincinnati meeting. It has not been voted on. It's here. If anybody wants to look at it, I'll pass it around. And that was one of the main orders of business. I think it will help us, but it has to be voted on at the Pittsburgh meeting, which will be coming up this spring. They have a spring and fall meeting, national committee meeting. And then every 4 years, of course, we have a convention, just like the Republicans and the Democrats. And but what the difference is that we actually talk about constitutional issues. We actually put forth, any candidate that runs for the Constitution Party has to agree with the platform. Not 100%. If there's a difference, we discuss it. But if it's a difference of, for instance, our first plank is pro-life, if that's a difference, then we don't want you. We will not run a candidate that's not 100% pro-life. Other than that, you're welcome to, if you join the party, you're welcome to participate in these things. Every 4 years they have a platform committee meeting, and they revise the platform in maybe minor ways, or sometimes it could be major ways. But the thing is that if you participate, you have a voice in that, what the platform is. You also get to vote on the issues that come before the National Committee. I find it exciting. I find it like a little mini vacation when I go to these meetings, because you're going to different places around the country, and you're also meeting with, you're sort of encouraged because you're meeting with people with like mind. And the rest of the time you're really fighting an uphill battle, but there at least you get boosted up a little bit. And you get encouraged, because in the West and the South, they are making strides. The Constitution Party is making big strides. It takes a long time. This party was formed in 1992 as the U.S. Taxpayers Party, and the name was changed to Constitution Party in 1999 at the St. Louis Convention. I think it's a much better name, U.S. Taxpayers Party, so it wasn't quite the right name. The Constitution Party is the right name. The platform is constitutional 100%, where people might disagree with one plank or another. It's minor and usually is able to be worked out. We need people to join the party. We need people to contribute dues at least, and maybe even contribute donations, because without money you're not going any place. And we also need candidates. We need people, even if you cannot run, if you cannot go out and talk, you can get your name on the ballot very easily. With 100 signatures, you can run for the House of Representatives. You can run, I think it's still 100 for Senate, isn't it?
No, on the federal level, it is higher. I know on the local and county level.
Well, anyway, this year you're only going to have statewide elections in New Jersey. So you only really need to run for the highest office that you can run for in New Jersey is only going to cost you 100 signatures. You get 100 signatures, you'll be on the ballot. You can sit home in your living room and watch Blue Bloods, and still the Constitution Party is on the ballot. It will be a form of advertisement, let's put it that way. We need to get our name out. People don't know about us. They know about the Libertarian Party. Libertarian Party is for open borders, if you didn't know that. They have it in their platform. They don't care who comes across the border. And they're also not not for the social issues like we are. I think the sanctity of life is one of the more important parts of our platform. And because if there's no respect for life, the country's doomed anyway.
All right. Thank you, Colin. That was actually a pretty good segue into new business. I wanted to talk about the 2015 campaign and ballot access. As Cal alluded, I can only speak for Ocean County. I live in Ocean County. For both local and county offices, all you need is 100 signatures. And for instance, Nancy lives in Toms River, I live in Bayville. We can both collect signatures for a county seat. I can only collect signatures in Bayville for a Bayville seat. She can only collect signatures in Toms River for a Toms River seat. But we can both pool our resources to get candidates on the county level, which is something that I really want to get started. I know that Roseanne has at least hinted at the idea of having a local Constitution Party meeting for local things, and I'd like to do that so that way, because not everybody can get to Keyport. If you live in Cape May, you're not coming here to a meeting. It's very difficult for those who live in Sussex County to get here for a meeting. It's even hard for me, and I only live 2 counties away. So what I'd like to do is have more meetings around the state, Constitution Party meetings, perhaps dovetail them with Tea Party meetings, and maybe we can get some more interest in the party, because I understand that not everybody wants to come to a political meeting. It's kind of boring. It's a bunch of us blowing hot air at each other, and oh yeah, we're right, and we leave and that's it. But on the local level, things can actually get done. So that's what I'd like to I'd like to have some volunteers to not only take up the mantle and get local meetings going, but also to, as Cal said, even if you're just going to put your name on the ballot, just so we can have some advertising. Lack of dollars is pretty heavy, but I mean that's basically free advertising. All you need to do is a little bit of legwork, and all we need is 5-6 people in a town, each go out and get 20 signatures. Probably need to double up on the signatures because they'll toss a couple out, but it's not hard for 5 or 6 people to get the signatures you need. But if it's only me getting all the signatures I need, and I can only cover Bayville, Ocean County, and that's something that the party can't do. However, we are a political party. We can run candidates. Tea parties are activist groups. They try to influence elections. And correct me if I'm wrong, if your Tea Party is a little bit different, but you try to influence elections, you try to influence those who are already in office. What we can do is put your people in the office. Then you don't have to influence them. Then you can concentrate on the rest of the town council that it's being a pain in the one guy's rear end. You already got somebody on the map. That's something that Tea Parties can't do, and we are a vehicle for that. So I encourage you to go back to your Tea Parties and talk to them about the Constitution Party, and try to encourage them to at least look us up. Yeah.
Do signees to get your name in the ballot have to be registered voters?
That's correct. They have to be legal registered voters in the town. They can't just be Joe Schmo.
It's on paper.
You have to have. Pardon me?
For us, we can get Republicans.
No, they have to be registered voters. They do not have to be members of the party. We just need our name on the ballot.
Larry's suggestion on that local meetings, I think if we start out with just 4 sections of New Jersey, if we could just have sectional meetings and
Like north, south,
then
kind of.
get into county meetings later on.
All right,
We
well-
could get people to volunteer to build up their section, or have a meeting in their section and gradually build it up.
And if
That
you-
would be better than what we have now.
And I'm perfectly willing, and I'm sure Frank can speak for Frank and Cal, if you need talking points, if you need material, if you need us to show up once in a while, just, you know, we're all willing to do that, we're all willing to help, but, you know, the party isn't just the three of us, you know, over here. We need everybody else, and then everybody else that you represent to come along with us.
Now, because you joined the Constitution Party helps us, and you can still, if your conscience allows it, vote for Republicans when we're not on the ballot someplace. You can hold your, well, I wouldn't vote for the lesser of two evils, but, you know, even some of these people that went in this last time profess to be conservative Republicans, and when they get in office, something happens in Washington D.C., I don't know if it's in the air, in the water, or what, and once they get there, they're done for.
Right.
They're in the pockets of
It is
politicians.
important to make the distinction between a primary election and a general election. A general election, you can vote for any candidate on the block. A primary election isn't really an election. It's a vote within a particular political party for whom the party is going to send up. So I'm talking, you know, people think it's not fair that I can't vote for a Democrat if I'm a Republican. Well, if you want to be a Democrat, go be a Democrat, that's fine. If you want to be a Republican, go be a Republican, and that's fine. But don't tell me in my party who I need to put up. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves, okay? And why we are all paying for primary elections is beyond me, but that's a whole other issue.
Larry?
Yes.
You do have a semblance of, I'm supposed to be the county coordinator in Sussex County. I have a website. So we've had efforts to do this sectional or by county or by whatever. Right now, I only get a few inquiries, but I do have a website that I've had this past year or so. So those kind of things could be done easily. We just need bodies to at least say, I'll do with not one county, a section of New Jersey. But you have to at least get your name out. It's easy to get a website from different avenues and just do most of it at home. And then I do get inquiries and I meet people at diners, but it's a long process, but it's not an overwhelming process. I just want to put a plug in for that.
Oh, thank you. Also, if you need help making a website, we do have somebody that is a little bit savvy. I can, in my limited capacity, help as well. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, please come and talk to me. Send me an email, think it over, talk to your spouses, whomever you feel you need to talk to. But we do need your help. It's not a one-person effort.
I have a comment on ballot access.
Yeah.
If it's time.
Yeah.
Ballot access for locals is, like you said, pretty easy. You can get 100 signatures and get on the ballot. But in 2016, it is important for us as a political party. In 40 some odd states, we have organizations. We don't have it in all 50, but it is important for us to put up a presidential candidate. I know he doesn't get many votes, but we need to have that presence every 4 years. So it's more difficult to get the signatures. And in the past, we've had a few people getting a lot of signatures. I want a lot of people getting a few signatures. It's going to be much easier. I can't go out and stand in the train station. I'm 76. I don't know what I'm going to. If I make it, I'll be 77. I used to get 400 or 500 signatures. I can't do that anymore. So we need people in the party to get a few signatures, get 25 signatures, get 30 signatures, send them in so that we need 800 statewide, very easy state to get ballot access on. And we usually collect 1,200 so that if they take a few of us off, we're still good for the candidate.
So just to break it down a little bit as far as how it looks in New Jersey, 2015 is, we're talking about presidential primaries most of the year, but in New Jersey it's an election year. New Jersey's odd in that our election years are in odd years. The whole assembly is up for election. There are 80 seats in the assembly.
40 in the assembly.
Right. So 2 members of the assembly from each district. Those are the districts. Hard to see with the backlight, but basically it starts from 1 up here and then you can count all the way up to 40 somewhere in there. It's not very clear, but that's how it's pretty much broken down. So there's 2 members to the assembly from each district. the New Jersey, like I said, 40, and one senator from each district. So you have 40 senators, 80 assembly members. Senators are up in years ending in 1, 3, and 7. So this year is not that year. And the assembly is up every year, every 2 years, much like the House of Representatives. And when you vote for an assembly member, you vote for 2 candidates. So basically, if there's a list of 4 or 5 people, whoever gets the number 1 and number 2 amount of votes, those are the 2 people you're sending to the assembly. So it's not even, vote for Steve and vote for John. It's a free-for-all. So whoever gets the top 2 amount of votes, and that's how we put somebody in the assembly.
The state senate is up.
The state senate is not this year.
They said all 120.
No.
Assembly
Only assembly.
Okay. They have more years.
And
They have 4 years maybe?
And a lot of people think you need to get a majority in the assembly to get anything done, and that's not necessarily true either. Okay? All we need to do is have a couple of spoilers. Let's say, and I don't know necessarily how each individual vote is broken up, but let's say we have 38 Republicans, 38 Democrats, and 4 Constitutionalists. Both parties are going to be vying for those 4 votes to try to get their legislation passed, because you can't get anything done without a majority. You don't need a whole assembly. You only need a handful to be a spoiler. And that's really all we need to shoot for in the short term. Because then we can block stupid things like some of the ridiculous gun laws and some of the stupid things they're trying to enact over there. Trying to raise our gas tax. Oh, prices are down in gas now, so this is a good time to raise the taxes. Oh, really? You're going to take the tax away when the prices go back up? No. So, Massachusetts spends about 10% of what we spend on roads, and they had the big dig.
Right.
So I don't know where I know we're wasting money, but in any case, we got to get a few spoilers in there to be able to block some of this crap.
May I say something to that?
You may.
We had Rick Jor, who was a Constitution Party member, changed over to the Constitution Party from Republican. He was a member of the Montana legislature. He got reelected under the Constitution Party banner. He was 1 vote out of whatever their assembly consists of. I can't remember the number of people. But he was very influential because they had to come to him for tie-breaking votes. So he was the only Constitution Party member, and he had great influence in the Montana legislature. Now, he's not in office anymore, but this is what we need. We can get one person in the assembly, or 1 person in the Senate or something. It can have a
And then you
tremendous
have a lot
amount of
more
influence.
recognition, and the momentum can build from there.
Larry, it seems to me that a lot of people don't even know that the Constitution Party exists.
That is something that I've been wrestling with.
Yeah,
the entire
so, running candidates and getting people out to counties and this and that, part of the problem is getting exposure.
Brand
Frank,
recognition.
you have degrees in marketing. I mean, it seems that we should be working a little bit more on marketing, getting our message out there. People are very discontent right now with the Republican Party. And to take a page out of Alinsky's playbook, why let a crisis go to waste? We have to see this as an opportunity. And we need to seize that opportunity to make a name for ourselves, because our name is non-existent. I mean, Barbara, had you heard of us before?
No,
Rick, you haven't? Yeah,
I know Frank for years, and I know that politically we're the same.
Right.
Like platform, morally, all that. I was going to agree with you because this election, for instance, my husband ran his county committee, and the Republican Party shoved him out. They did this whole sneaky thing.
Oh, you want to
and-
see
yeah,
Vicious
and- yeah.
run against the
Not a good
Republican?
Yeah, and they pushed him out. What we did, now they put him
tried
on
to.
the ballot all the way up the last line, all by himself. What I don't say publicly because I don't. Well, all right. Well, it's okay. I mean, they would be stupid not to know what we did, but we called people, and all I did was tell them the truth. They said the Republican Party. We called Republicans. They pushed my husband out. And they were like, what? And I told them the truth, what happened, and they voted for him, a lot of people, not that thousands of people voted for him.
Right.
But they're so used to the two-party system that it was like, okay, he's still a Republican, but he's a different, so they are tired of it. They just need to know that it's okay
They
to
have an
go.
alternative.
Exactly, because I think they're afraid, it's like, well, I'm a Republican, but he's a different Republican.
One of the biggest coups that the opposition has pulled off, particularly as pertains to, I will say right-minded, even though that's not entirely accurate, but right-minded individuals, is that any time someone says liberty, freedom, or America, oh, you're one of those people. All right. And automatically you're dismissed. And you know what? I've had enough of that. And I've decided to own it. I'm going overboard. When I talk to people, I use the words liberty, I use the word freedom, and I even use the word America with apostrophe at the beginning. Because you know what? I'm going to own it. I mean, look, again, and I'm not endorsing anybody, but look what they did to somebody like Sarah Palin. Look what they did to Rick Santorum. Even if you don't agree with those people, at the very least, they were the voices of difference within the Republican Party, and the Republican Party shut them out.
I could
What they
tell
did
you.
to Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you run against a Republican in a conservative community, and I'm speaking from experience, the viciousness that you're going to encounter is not from the Democrats.
No.
You won't believe what you're going to come against.
I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that part of the big problem is that people don't speak very simplistic, straight English. And you call a spade, and you call a problem, and you have the inner strength to say it like it is. And if we keep on, walking around like we're walking on eggs, we're just going to keep on getting smacked around like we're insignificant.
We have censored ourselves.
PC is killing us.
We have censored ourselves.
I don't think anyone in this room is.
Racism, all of these
Right.
things that are, those are terrible words. No, there is a lot of racism.
There's a
And
difference
it's
between
reverse
racist
racism.
and
There is a
racial.
lot of stuff that's going
Okay,
on.
just because I'm going to make a comment about somebody, and it doesn't, just because they happen to be of a different skin color, I'm not speaking to them as if they are representing their whole race. But all of a sudden, if I say, well, I don't like Obama's policy, oh, you must be a racist. No!
Let them do it.
It's a tool.
It's exactly right, and we're all afraid of the name calling, and like I said, there's a difference between racial comments and racist comments and bigotry.
Yes.
Those three things are completely different.
Can I just say something to that? As a Bible-believing Christian, and if any of you are, you cannot be a racist. We all came from one man and one woman, Adam and Eve. So the races, whatever races, differences we have, we're all in Adam. So there's no really logical reason for anybody to be a racist if they're a Bible-believing Christian. That's number one. Number two is we have promotional materials over here on this table, and I have plenty more in my car that you can take with you to help spread the news about the Constitution Party. They're attractive. They're easy to give out. They have our email address on them. These pocket constitutions that I have over here are in packs of 10. They all have the stamp inside of them indicating the home office of the Constitution Party of New Jersey. There's several ways we can get. You can call radio shows, the 101.5. Sometimes you can get through and you can get to mention the Constitution Party. You can write editorials on a particular subject, mention the Constitution Party. We got to get our name out there, and there's lots of ways we can do it, but we need people to participate.
On a positive note, when we were talking to Anthony, and Roseanne was involved with this, I think Marty was too, but we were talking to him, pushing him for that Constitution Party run, and it was all this, he didn't want to really do it. We felt very guilty, but we pushed him into it. Then all of a sudden, they got something like in Jersey City, 3,000, 4,000 votes. And I don't know what Douglas is doing about this, or Andy, but they better have a huge tea party by now. So things can happen. I don't know why in Monmouth County it was so hard here for us, and I think that it's these Republican counties that are killing us, but
Yeah.
over there, it's amazing.
But you know, that
I had
brings me
it just
to if
as
I
an
could just say,
inspiration.
I made phone calls for Anthony. And the phone calls you get when you get the list were registered Republican voters, people who voted in the last 2 elections. And when I was calling these houses, I was calling Bayonne, and I would say probably at least 80% of them could hardly speak English. And a couple of them even told me that they were not citizens. They were registered voters.
That's why you need to have somebody que habla español para que puedan hablar con ellos. Porque si no puedes hablar con ellos, no te van a entender ni una palabra.
There we go.
He's in charge of that.
Yeah. If you need phone calls to Spanish, that's.
And I would write. I'd be willing to write.
You're
I
a
mean,
white gringa.
one of the things I could do, as most of you know, is write. And Frank, we've worked on some political campaigns and all. And a large part of a political campaign is getting that message out and writing it properly. There's things you could do. It's all psychological, what you could do, what you shouldn't be able to doing. And I'd be happy to help with that, with press releases and anything like that, and promotional material.
Well, this is not necessarily a venue, but for this kind of thing. But I am impressed with how you write, and I
Oh,
appreciate
well,
the.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate the
It's from the
offering.
heart, and like you say it straight out.
Well, I mean, and that's what resonates with people.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments regarding this topic? All right. No other new business. Going around the room, anybody? Sir, you joined us late. Would you like to introduce yourself, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to be on camera because I'm part of the establishment.
Oh, that's fine.
And
Well, don't say your name. The camera's rolling.
okay. I'm a municipal chair from one of the towns in the area.
Okay.
Believe me, I'm not happy with the Republican Party and some of the Republican stuff that's been going on.
Okay.
So, I know Frank, we go to the same Christian church together, like this gentleman said, the first thing to do is fight a racist, they have all kinds of, different mantras. But my town, I have a Democrat, my whole town is Democrat, and I'm the one guy fighting the Hun. So I find that, I've gone to the John Birch Society, this is my first time here at the Constitutional Party, I know the Tea Party, Barbara's done a great job over there. It seems like we're all fractions. Frank and I were having this conversation before. We're all over the place. We would join together because the issue is it's a two-party system. With a two-party system, just like Barbara said, her husband got pushed out because they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want a problem, and then they alienated themselves a little bit. I know because I hear from the higher ups that when they primaried the people at the county level. It just made them mad, so you could hit the bee's nest. So now they sort of sideline the Tea Party, which I think is wrong. I said the Tea Party should be our best friends, they're our best allies, they're our best patriots.
Right.
So as a patriot myself, my whole thing is we should be all working together. We should have John Birch here, we should have you guys, we should have the Tea Party. We should get together, and the best way to infiltrate them, because you see with the Carlo Roves, what he did in Delaware with that poor woman that was a good conservative.
Yeah. Oh,
He
that was
basically called her a
scary.
witch and this and that, and they pushed her out, and they wanted the bearded commie over a good conservative female. I mean, think about it. I'll take a bearded commie. You know why? Because they said, well, in 6 years, we can get the bearded commie out, and we'll put our guy back in, right? So what we have to do is we have to not fight with them. We have to slowly
Easier said than done.
anesthetize. We have to go with county committee, just like Barbara's husband got in. That's one seat. My town has 28 seats. So really, all you need to take over is, and really.
Write that down. We can figure out what town he's in.
But realistically, what is it, Barbara? Maybe 10 people a district come out and vote?
Well, there was 20, it was like 25, but.
Right, well,
yeah.
that was because that one was, there was a push. But
Right.
most of them, like in my town, 10 votes would get you a county
Yeah,
committee seat.
oh, right.
So this is exactly
So
what we're talking about. We don't need
Yeah.
a lot of people.
No.
And what he's saying is exactly right. As the Constitution Party, we can be the conduit for all these Tea Parties, NJ2A, John Birch Society, Ocean County Citizen. We could be the conduit by which they can put their own people in an office. And then they can not have to concentrate on all the seats. Then they can
focus their efforts on an influence. And then if you get somebody in a seat, that speaks volumes. You talk to the rest of the town council, say, listen, we got him in. We'll kick all the rest of you out too if you don't start behaving. Then they'll start sitting up and listening, because then the money goes away. When they're not in power, the money goes away. And that's really what's driving it. Yes, sir.
I'm just turning my camera off for a second, because what I need to say, I don't want going out on the air.
On the national level, we have 25 Congress people that did not vote for Boehner, and they're really coming against it within their own party. I mean, Boehner made an effort to get rid of them from committee chairs. He's backing off because of the backlash. But it just occurred to me that those 25 people and someone like Sarah Palin might be interested in what because those are solid conservatives.
Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
There's an
Is the
opportunity
Constitution Party
there.
prepared? Because here's the opportunity.
That's what I'm saying. So as we're going through trying to make a name for ourselves, maybe what we should be looking are at these 25 people.
Well, that number has changed, because there were 25 that actually voted. It came out in a report yesterday that there actually were about 50 altogether. The other 25 just didn't want to deal with the wrath that might have come out. So the rebellion is there.
So
Maybe
Well,
we
if they-
could promote the
they didn't vote, then
Constitution
they're-
Party
they're
by
gutless.
showing a picture of Boehner kissing Nancy Pelosi on the cheek.
Put that on the website.
But that's what I think we need to discuss, the opportunities. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know no one here knows me. It's my first time. I'm not a member yet, but I hope to be soon.
there's membership forms right over here.
I will take one today. Thank you. I really like what you're doing, and when I hear, I've been studying Obama for about 7 years, and I just couldn't understand why he's doing the things that he had done. The laws and the stances and no border and all this. Until I got my hands on a video, which I highly recommend, which is Agenda 21 Explained, and I know a lot of you are probably somewhat aware, but until you get that explained to you and you see the different laws that have been passed over the last 25 years, and it's the most chilling thing, because they want to take over everything that we do. They're using the environment as an excuse. It's going to be sustainability from here on in, and you're already seeing them destroy dams, and it's a war on the people in the Midwest and the rural areas, and it's bad, you know. But until you start studying Agenda 21, when you do, everything falls into place that they're doing. It all makes sense. And as far as I'm concerned, Democrats, Republicans, they work hand in glove. They play us like a violin.
They know how to divide us, right?
This is real short. I don't know any more than you guys. Cal knows me a long time. I was the Republican, 99. You know, it's the same thing. I understand what Chris is saying, and I understand what Rob is saying, and Larry's right. Keep nudging them. Keep doing what you gotta do with them. But there's too many of us that have fought so hard to bring that party in, and then force me to be Constitution Party. And all you gotta really do is look at Ron Paul. That guy was the only man that would have straightened this country out and reversed the socialist damage. And look what they did to him. So who's anybody? How are we gonna do it if he couldn't do it? But keep working at it.
All right, yes, sir. Last comment.
My name is Bill. About 10 years ago, I walked into a voting booth in Carteret, saw a position on the ballot, said no petition to file. So I did my civic duty and wrote my name in. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail, I won. So nobody, absolutely nobody, can tell me that my vote doesn't count.
Very good, very good. Okay, so we all agree that within and without are probably two different ways of going about it. And that's what actually the Tea Parties are for, okay? We have John Birch and Second Amendment. They're going to concentrate on the gun rights. Other Tea Party groups are going to concentrate on free speech. Under the Constitution Party, we can get them both done. They're going to be the activists to get the things done. We're going to be the people that are the candidates that welcome them instead of rejecting them.
It's a prop.
Up next, we have Diane Sayre, former gubernatorial candidate from New Jersey. She's going to talk about bricks, and I'll let her explain. So,
Okay.
Diane.
All right, so I'm going to use my notes because there's enough material that I could go on for a really long time, and I have 5 or 6 minutes, so I want to make sure I say what needs to be said. As he said, I did run for governor as an independent in 2013, and I am on the currently on the policy committee of the LaRouche Political Action Committee. And I think, look, one of the biggest crimes that's been committed by our news media, which has committed many crimes, is to not inform the American people of what is actually occurring. And can you see this from a distance, the dark colored nations?
Yeah.
The BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They met in July in Fortaleza, Brazil, and they created 2 banks. One is a development bank, which will issue long-term low-interest credit for massive, huge infrastructure, high-speed rail, nuclear power, space programs. They're building. China's funding another Panama Canal through Nicaragua. People may have heard about this. It's a completely new paradigm. The other bank is to protect the participating nations against currency devaluations. And you see this kind of economic warfare going on right now against Russia. So just to say where we are, people may have heard this week, the Swiss franc was decoupled from the euro. Okay, why is the Swiss franc leaving the euro? And they took a hit because when they decoupled, the franc went up by about 17%, which means that Swiss exporters who are trying to get paid are going to have a hard time with their exports. But the government of Switzerland was prepared to take that hit because there are 2 things coming up, and we really are at the end of the system. The euro is only slightly more bankrupt than Wall Street. What is about to happen is on January 25th, you have elections in Greece, and the leading party right now wants to leave the euro. They want Greece to leave the euro, and if you know how pyramid schemes work, you pull out one part of the pyramid and the whole thing goes down, and they are planning 3 days before the Greek election to do a massive round of quantitative easing in Europe, just money printing like crazy. So the Swiss have decided that they are not going to tie their currency to this insanity any longer. It's a very big deal. Now, what I wanted to mention at the beginning, since you're talking about the parties, our republic has been so under attack, and people get freaked out because LaRouche always talks about the British and the British Empire, but I have to say, this week was the Republican Party retreat in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The keynote speaker to the Republican Party retreat is Tony Blair. At the same time that Tony Blair is addressing the Republican Party, the current British Prime Minister, David Cameron, is coming in to meet with Obama. Okay, so you have to ask, whose interest is our nation acting in at the moment? And what is their interest? Now, I just wanted to say that what these nations have done, and I won't go through a long history, but in 1971, early in the year, actually in 1969, 1970, LaRouche warned that Nixon was going to take the U.S. off the dollar. That occurred in August of '71. He had produced at the time something called a proposal for an international development bank that said we should break the IMF, we should break the World Bank. Nations have a right to economic development. What the BRICS nations are doing is simply that, and because they are so, China and India each have over 1 billion people. So when you have now verging on half the world's population, they have created a substantial counterpole to the power of London and Wall Street. So what happened last year, people may have heard, the nation of Argentina, which is not officially in the BRICS, and Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner just opened the 3rd nuclear power plant in Argentina and got it running. She got into a huge fight with a particular vulture fund, NML Capital, whose head, Paul Singer, is a big funder of Chris Christie and the Bush Republicans. She was restructuring the debt of the nation. NML Capital was the only creditor that refused to restructure. They wanted to make a 1,608% profit on Argentina, and she said, no, we will not pay that. And this went by prior agreement to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court said Argentina has to pay. Well, her representative walked out of the hearings in New York, and then the courts here said, okay, you will not be allowed to get any more capital from the U.S. and Western Europe. And Argentina said, who cares? There's a new game in town. It's the BRICS. We don't need you. We don't have to depend on you. And then she went ahead and shut down temporarily, and I think they just raided their offices again, HSBC, which I believe was the bank holding the money. HSBC was refusing to pay their other creditors until this other thing was settled, so they moved their money out of the HSBC bank into a Bank of Argentina. I will point out, people here may remember, HSBC was caught laundering I think $17 billion worth of drug money a couple years ago, and in the US not one single person went to jail, and we fined them $1 billion. The other case on the BRICS, which is the situation in between India and Russia, which I think is extremely significant. India was about to purchase 14 nuclear power plants from Russia. The new Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is a protege of Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, actually. And if people have seen him or heard him speak, he has an intense commitment to get his nation out of poverty. They want every single house to have indoor plumbing. He wants Gandhi's 150th birth year, which is 2019, that the Ganges River should be clean. No more outdoor defecation. They're building 800 million toilets. They're building 100 new cities. They're creating 1 million jobs a month. To do this, they need energy. So they go to Russia to get 14 nuclear power plants. The US State Department freaks out, goes bonkers, denounces India. How can you sign a deal with Russia? They're under sanctions. You're not allowed to trade with them. Meanwhile, the US cannot produce 1 nuclear power plant. I think we're building 2, but we can't produce here the containment vessels. There's only a few nations now who can. So we can't offer to sell India 14 nuclear power plants. Putin goes to India and they sign a contract, but it's not for 14 nuclear power plants, it's for 25. So what has occurred is that because of the insanity of our post-industrial policies and free trade, that the United States has made itself irrelevant, not because we are irrelevant, but because with this emerging, we really represent nothing. The only thing that we can do is threaten war. And that is the last resort of Wall Street and London. So what you see, some people may remember, about a year and a few months ago, I spoke to you about the situation in Ukraine, where the coup was just beginning, which George Soros and Victoria Nuland pumped about $5 billion into some real extremist groups, many of them still wearing swastikas, the Svoboda Party people know, like Nazis. They took over Ukraine with Molotov cocktails. You can get the video footage, this is not an exaggeration. Why? Because the West needed to loot Ukraine, and Ukraine was interested in orienting toward the current government. So he fled. You got a government installed by the US. At the last elections, they couldn't even fill the Ukrainian cabinet because so many people didn't want to be part of it. Victoria Nuland somehow went over there and deputized a guy from Georgia and a guy from the United States as Ukrainian citizens, like to be part of the cabinet to carry out this looting of the Ukrainian population. What is this being used to do? And then you remember the M17, the Malaysian flight that was shot down over Ukraine. After they got the black box, you didn't hear about it anymore because the evidence showed that the Kiev forces shot down the plane, not Russia, not Putin. But when Obama spoke at the UN, he said there are 3 major threats to the world: Ebola, Russia, and ISIS. So you have the US on a course for World War III under a puppet regime run, as I said, Tony Blair and Cameron are here this week. If you wonder whose interest we're acting in, when we actually were invited, in Fortaleza, the United States was invited to participate in the BRICS Bank. That is, we don't have to give up our sovereignty, we don't have to give up the dollar. We were invited to participate in this, and we are not interested because we have been hijacked by the financial interests of Wall Street and London. So I'll just close by saying what has to be done in the United, because what we have to offer to the world, at the moment we are a basket case. We can't build 14 nuclear power plants. We don't have the economic might to influence the world that way. What we have is Alexander Hamilton. That is, what we have is the American system, which is unique. And when the United States functions, which has been rare of late, according to our Constitution, we actually play the role of pulling everybody else together. And that were we to return to Hamilton, which means reinstating the Glass-Steagall Act, the separation of the banks, no more bailouts of the speculators, return to national banking, that is a national bank, not a federal reserve, and uniform laws across the nation. Not every bank in every state gets to have their own laws about whatever they do. Thirdly, credit. What Hamilton did after the revolution was to direct credit into roads, canals. That is, the federal government does have the right to quote unquote print money, but it's not printing money if it's thought of as an investment in the future of the nation, that you do things that make your population orders of magnitude more productive than they were previously. The 31 trillion or 9 trillion, there's, I don't know, once you get over $1 trillion, it's all the same to me, but however much it is that we spent in bailouts only has caused hyperinflation. So that is not credit. We need a credit system as Hamilton designed it. And then 4, you have to have a science driver. The Chinese have they're now in their 5th mission to the moon. They want to mine helium-3 on the moon. This came from our space program. This was Harrison Schmitt, the last astronaut to go to the moon, who was a geologist, who was looking at the possibility of helium-3 as a fuel for fusion, because it in the reaction it releases a charged particle as opposed to a neutron, which means that you might even be able to get energy instead of having all these turbines in water. You could get the electricity directly. We don't know. We haven't done enough work yet.
I can talk to that if you're really
Yeah,
interested.
good.
It's really boring.
No, it's exciting. Anyway, the Chinese are totally committed to doing this. They want to work with us, and the NASA budget has been cut so badly. Not only are we not sending men into space, we can't send our astronauts to Germany. That is, we can't send them to international space conferences. So the point is, this can be addressed. It's going to be addressed one way or the other, because we are at the point of absolute blowout of this system. The euro is, they may come up with some other fanatical, insane kind of bubble, but it is really likely to go in the very, very near term. That's why the Swiss did what they did, and that has major implications for here. And therefore, the United States in the very short term is going to have to return to Hamiltonian constitutional methods of economic policy. So I have literature if people want afterwards, and that's what I have. Okay.
Well, Diane has very good points to make, and we all may not always agree, but I think the one thing we can probably agree on is the Federal Reserve needs to go. So it's at least a good first step, right? All right, thank you very much. Frank, up to you. I can shut this down. You have a presentation.
I have the old one. I have the old equipment, so. Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm gonna slide the whole table there. But I can't have this recorded.
Uh-oh.
No, if you shut it
For
down.
a fee of $1, I will shut off the phone.
But this something like this can't be really recorded, and you'll see why. I'm gonna explain it to you.
Well, I'm turning it off now.
Rights. Bill of Rights was put in because many of the patriots would not have signed the Constitution without the Bill of Rights being there. But that did not exhaust the rights. They did not write an exhaustive list of rights that people had, inalienable rights that came from God. This Bill of Rights is just restrictions on the federal government. They cannot change these rights. These rights are inherent and given by God. So the right to self-defense is given by God. The right to freedom of speech is given by God. But, and all the 10 Bill of Rights restrict the power of government. In fact, first, the Constitution was to restrict the federal government. So most of the Constitution up until the 13th Amendment is restrictive on the federal government. After that, it changes, and most of the amendments from 13 on are just to empower the government.
Thank you, Cal. We were supposed to have Pastor Luis Rafael with us today. Unfortunately, I guess he was averted. But he wanted to talk about, and specifically with his congregation, the Latino community. But I had something that would dovetail with what he said. In the last few months, we all saw the news reports, a lot of riots going on regarding a couple of infamous cases. The black community up in arms about what they perceived was basically an all-out attack on their community. I happen to think that they have been lied to by their community leadership as far as the true source of their angst. But I'd like to offer a different perspective on what they were doing. And I say they, being a racist name. Excuse me, racial. But really, if you look at it through a different prism, they're not that far off of the reservation as far as how we think. Because what you have are a group of people afraid that the government is out to get them. Anybody in here similar of thought? Now, we're not taken to the streets, but you know what? They're not wrong. Their focus is perhaps off, their aim may be off, but that's only because they've been lied to by those who want to profit from them. I think we have an opportunity, if we couch the anger and start to speak to their intellect, because as Cal said, it has nothing to do with the color of your skin as to whether or not you're an intellect. We're all the same up here. So if we explain to them, listen, you got a government here that is exploiting you. And we think we're being exploited too. We can join our forces and bring them into the fold and say, listen, come with us. We agree with you that the government has been unfair. We agree with you that the government is not in your best interest right now. We think you can come in and help us get people elected, because you know what? Republicans aren't helping us, and the Democrats sure as heck haven't helped their community. And that's very painfully obvious if you look at what's been done over the past 50 years.
Yeah, we just incorporated, you know, most of you know Stevie Kraft and Nick Purpura, right? Nick's a chaplain, and you know Kraft's background. We just incorporated a ministry called Salt and Pepper Ministries. And the objective is to get the voice into the urban communities with the truth like that. So once we get that up and running, we're looking to get a radio station, but not an internet station, a regular network radio station into these communities. And we want to get behind the program, like come up after Al Sharpton's program. And start speaking the truth into these communities with issues like this.
I've been talking with Nick, and I'm going to be covering that on First Amendment TV to show Salt and
Okay,
Pepper.
we're going to be we're going to need support, because you know nobody's making any profit on anything, but we need to buy the airtime.
And so,
Yeah.
much like, and the last analogy I'll give to this, much like what the Republicans have done to the like of Sarah Palin and Ron Paul. Look what they do to even Bill Cosby. Say what you want about what may or may not have been going on in his personal life, but he speaks out and says, educate yourselves. And they call him an Uncle Tom and they say, get out of here. Ben Carson, again, say what you want about his politics, but at least he's a voice of common sense. He wants to rally people, and look what they're doing to him. He's a piece of dung. Why? Because he's going to empower individuals as opposed to empowering leaders like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson Obama.
Well, it's the old saying, united we stand, divided we fall, and that's exactly what the government wants. The government doesn't want the races to get along. As
No.
long as they're fighting each other, we can't watch them.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's exactly where then Soros is, everybody else is picking up their body parts.
Okay.
Well, this is, Republicans and even conservatives, they complain about not getting the Latin vote or the black vote. They're not going into these neighborhoods. They're not going there to speak the truth. And if they don't hear it, they just know that they've been a Democrat. And the Democrat Party tells them that they're gonna take care of them.
I'm not interested in the white vote. I'm not interested in the Latino vote. I'm not interested in the black vote. I'm interested in the educated Americans vote. And that's all that we need.
But we need to go into those neighborhoods. You're not gonna win them by staying in the white suburbs.
Yeah, what happened is when, just to reinforce what you guys are saying, when Anthony ran in Jersey City, we started planting seeds about the black kids getting hassled by the cops. And we were getting I was getting stories with a few other people. And the sheriff, if you do like Hudson County, Essex County, Mercer County, if we get Constitution Party sheriffs there, they'll start going around, okay, if this grand jury thing doesn't work, and their job is to make sure that the police do their job too, and they correct that, and the people will feel safer.
By the way, you don't have to be in law enforcement, you don't have to have anything to do with law enforcement to run for sheriff, okay? You can run for sheriff as a busboy. So, it's an area where we could make inroads, because sheriff is, you can talk to people about the sheriff. Well, if you elect a Democrat sheriff, they're gonna be beholden to the local Democrat Party. And if you elect a Republican sheriff, they're gonna be beholden to the Republican establishment. An individual can run independent or as a Constitution Party candidate, and we can explain that to people and maybe get some votes that way. If you get a constitutional sheriff in a county, you've made inroads.
Thank you, Cal. Just a quick comment to what you just said a second ago. The Latino vote, the black vote, the educated American vote, the least in numbers is the educated American vote. Okay,
Yes.
so if you want to go for a small amount of the population, that may not be the best idea.
Well, what I meant to, I understand your point, but what I meant to say is I want to educate people so that they don't see themselves as a subgroup. We're all in this
Most
together.
people are uneducated.
Unfortunately, that's so. I don't want to leave this one for too long. Go ahead.
And to what Roseanne said, I think it's very important to get airtime because if everyone here knows Kevin Jackson from Black Sphere, he's a really down-to-earth guy. He's on Fox News sometimes. He gets on. Read his book, the Great Black Lie or something like that. It's a great book. But he's a black activist, conservative, and that's what he tries to. Because he emails sometimes back and forth to me. And he says, "You've got to get people to go into these neighborhoods.
Amen.
It's the only." He said, "He's seen it where a white Tea Party group shows up in a barber shop and they're like, they're not going to throw. They're shocked, but they're listening. They'll listen to you. You just have to be brave. You have to go. Yeah, and you have to really go.
Look.
But if you can get airtime,
If I were a member of a community that has been targeted and downtrodden for 50 years, I will listen to anybody who says they have an alternative.
Right.
And I think that that's what they're aiming for.
Clive and Bundy's ranch, which was part of being taken over by the federal government through the land management group out in Nevada, which has taken over almost every single ranch out there. Clive and Bundy went to the press. He got a gentleman named Pete Santelli, who is going across the United States on the internet / you can listen to him on your radio. went out there and actually shut down the federal government, and I do mean face to face, guns pointed at them, snipers in the hills. Not only was that accomplished, Sheriff Mack then got involved because he is a constitutional sheriff, which I never even heard of until I talked to Frank a few years ago with my association with Cal here over the last 2-3 years. Sheriff Mack went out there, and if you do educate, which is exactly why Sheriff Mack went out there, was to educate the constitutional sheriff. Supposedly, he was not. He was paid off and bought by Harry Reid and everybody else out there. They actually shut down that entire situation where the federal government came in with helicopters and everything else, chasing these cattle. The cattle were dying from running. The babies were being separated. The baby cattle were dying because they were being separated from the mothers, and they couldn't feed them. Exactly. But they stood toe to toe. You can actually pull this up. Clive and Bundy. You can pull this up, and I'm talking guns were in their face. And one of the things that nobody realized, only because I was tied to Pete Centelli and with my buddy Ken from Michigan, who was actually there, they actually blockaded the federal government from bringing their vehicles or armored vehicles into that. They stopped them in the city where they couldn't get by. And then the militias from New Hampshire, Florida, Texas actually went there and had guns on the federal government. They backed down. Now Harry Reid came out and said that these are terrorists. No, they're not. These are people that have had their land taken, and that land was to be sold to the Chinese for solar power, which is amazing. What the hell are the Chinese doing in our deserts?
Meanwhile, Harry Reid's characterizing citizens as terrorists, and the NDAA says, what with terrorists? We can put you in jail, you don't have your rights.
That's right.
Funny how that all worked out, all at the right time, isn't it?
Exactly.
All right, well, we could all get riled up about that, I'm sure, but right now it's time to roast the chairman. I've been the chairman of the party for a little over a year now, and I would like feedback. Now, I know not all of you have been to all of the meetings, but I will not comment, I will not defend myself, I will take all the slings and arrows. But what I want to do is write down the comments, what I'm doing poorly, what I'm doing good, what different things I can do to improve meetings, improve attendance, improve exposure for the party. So have at it. Anybody have any comments, positive or negative, for me? Cleve.
I think you're doing a great job. I think you make me proud to be here. The only thing that I would suggest is we need some guidance as to what do you want us to do.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have, any negative, and I don't say as a negative, I think you do a great job out there. I'm very proud to be a part
So
of
you want
this.
me to be specific
As to what you would like us to do.
You want marching
We need some
orders.
guidance. We need some guidance.
Guidance. Strategy, that's
yeah.
what we need.
Okay.
You might want to add an agenda or a platform, where you want us to go.
Okay.
What do you want us to get done?
And
And it's not just the simplicity of following the Constitution. It's
Nope, I understand.
specific things that need to be done.
Get the millennials involved.
Yeah.
Everybody's involved.
Yeah, but specifically.
They're a
The
big
future.
part of the
Younger
bad
people.
stuff going on.
They have to do it.
I'm, my first meeting, I'm delighted.
I'll take it.
You know, it's very specific, very clear. It's, I enjoyed the meeting. Maybe there could be some sort of informal stay together afterwards to discuss, in future meetings, policies and direction and more specific.
Okay, so
Chores.
like an informal get-together. Perhaps we can have, I don't know, just like a non-political gathering, everybody get together, have like a dinner party, something like that, maybe.
Beer pong. Beer pong.
You'd have to have that one recorded.
Beer summit, prepare decent.
Yeah.
You need to be a point man. Now, we have come up with some ideas in this meeting, for instance, the sectional leaders. We need people to volunteer to be sectional leaders in their section. There's, I would say, South Jersey, Western, where Marty's from,
Okay.
and the Northeast, and maybe down the Philadelphia area. So we need sectional leaders, and we need we need specific marching instructions as far as running as candidates. Okay, we talked about running as candidates, and things like that. I mean, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
White papers.
white paper.
Yeah, like stuff what we're doing now. We have to,
Yeah.
we
That's
have
a
a lot
racist
of
remark.
access to real constitutional issues and how things should be. So like the sheriff project, the grand jury, you know, but more like doing white papers and posting them.
Okay, what, I'll have to get with you to understand what a white paper is. Send me an email or something like that, but I want to understand what that is so we can think about doing it. Anybody else that's perhaps some of the new folks?
Well, can I add something?
Yeah.
I mean, in conjunction with what Frank said, we have a presidential election coming up.
Yeah.
And there's some things that we want our government to accomplish, if and when we ever get a government there that will accomplish it for us. And we need to outline, in white papers, for example, what those issues are. Are we gonna deal with illegal immigration? How are we gonna deal with it? Case, point by point. It can't be, you know, what do they call it now? What do they?
Position paper.
Position
Yeah,
We call
I mean,
it position
yeah,
paper.
right.
What about the selecting, perhaps it could be brought up at the quarterly meeting of a candidate that we might consider nationally towards lending our official support of,
I know
that-
if we don't run someone just as a secondary.
There will be a convention of the Constitution Party in the fall of 2015, or the spring, I think it's the spring of 2016, where they will nominate a presidential candidate. There's people, last time, 6 people ran. Virgil Goode, who wasn't a very good speaker or a very good spokesman for the Constitution Party, although he has the right ideas, he just wasn't able to articulate them in this. But he won by a very slim margin. We had 6 people running for the office of president. So that's where they'll choose the presidential candidate.
Right.
And they have some good people.
The Constitution Party of New Jersey is focused specifically on New Jersey. We are affiliated with the national. However, much like the intent of the Constitution, the state parties run themselves, and then we are all under the umbrella of the national leadership. However, they do not necessarily direct us on how we move forward. Cal?
Well, I don't know if I can't read lips, but anyway, you are going to have a choice in the fall of 2016 if you want to vote Democrat or Republican. You're going to have a choice between Hillary Clinton and a Jeb Bush or a Romney, and I'm not voting for either one of them. Okay, I don't think there's that much difference, and we're going to have a candidate. I don't care if he gets. I like to see him get 51% of the vote. If he gets 1%, I'd be thrilled. But the thing is, you have somebody to vote for. I cannot stomach voting for the lesser of 2 evils.
You
Sorry.
still get evil.
All right. We are
get evil.
We are running up against
Larry,
the
just one more thing.
Yes.
I think maybe we need to develop committees. Because to talk about everything at a general meeting, it's just, it's too broad. There's different things we need to do.
Okay.
So if we could form committees for different things, and then those committees could give reports at a meeting, I think we might progress a little bit more.
That's a good idea. Okay,
One
let's-
other thing I want to
Yes.
bring up, if you want to get a candidate to run for president, you got to find out how to get him into, and start now, to get him into the debates.
They're working on that.
Okay.
So that's
Absolutely.
gotta be
National is
used
working on it.
Start now, start getting.
Yeah,
That's one of their-
that's
debates.
Nationals, that's in
That's
Nationals
one-
wheelhouse, but that's something that we
That's
can
one of the
certainly
agendas
support.
of the national committee meeting. To get-
Partner?
We really gotta aggressively find some.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we missed the boat on the governor gubernatorial election this year. I mean,
That's how cheap.
Why can't we get,
oh wait, he's not.
Roseanne talked about committees.
16, so we'll.
Why can't we get a committee right now together, a candidate committee and a ballot access committee? I mean, those are 2 things that are necessary.
All right,
I'll be glad to head up the
All right.
ballot access committee, not the candidate committee.
Anybody vote or?
Oh,
No, but we'll-
I just said, it's not something, because we definitely can't discuss it now, it's too lengthy, but please think about it. There's only one person that I can think of that will go against the party, and that's Sarah Palin. She's been vetted to death, they already destroyed her, the conservatives love her, and you know what, even if she loses, What do we have to lose?
And the
Do
establishment
we
paid
lose,
certainly
we
down
lose
like-
with
I'll tell you
Bush?
what,
We lose with Palin, but at least we give them a black eye.
Well,
I mean,
A lot
Barbara,
of
what you
people
gotta
love
do
her.
is convince Sarah Palin, and her husband, by the way, was a part of the Alaska Independent Party before they.
If
All
we
right,
could
well,
have
that's
a
what I'm saying.
committee to address her, to
Convince
approach
Sarah
her.
Palin
We
to
can all
join the
unite on
Constitution
that
Party and come
and
down
draft
and
her.
run.
and get and draft her.
Well, I
That's
think
what
that would be next on
my
the-
dream is for this
Uh,
year.
And I would just like to nominate Frank for marketing committee to be a chair.
Hard
And-
because I can't, because I'm doing, in
The-
June, I'm doing the administration
No excuses,
training.
Frank.
So I gotta, you're not gonna see me anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what, make sure I have everybody's email,
Right.
and I will send emails out over the next week regarding, getting volunteers and people to act on it. But what we can do right now is have Cal, somebody please set forth a nomination for Cal to do the ballot access committee. Anybody, or can I make a motion?
Well, I make a motion to.
All right, you make a motion. Can we second the motion to make Cal the,
Second.
second the motion? Any discussion? All in
I have no
favor?
opposition?
Anybody opposed to Cal? All right, the motion will carry. Cal, you're gonna be now in charge of
Ballot access.
ballot access and
And
then
add an agenda for the.
funneling it down to local
Just
members.
did.
Um,
I didn't, just.
If your name's not on the list, I can't contact you.
That's
So
right.
put
So
your
please
name
get
on
on
the list. I
as
will
far as-
forward everything to Larry, and he has a broader list. You got that
I
from
have the
all,
email.
so.
As far as the minutes, we have to vote on that. Anybody opposed to the minutes as submitted?
Where's my copy, by the way? I
Yeah,
passed it around.
It's over here.
Oh,
All
okay,
copies are
thanks.
here.
All right, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we submit the minutes.
Great.
Just one more thing. We talked a lot about elections and stuff, and I'd like you to think about this in any discussions when you go home with your family and friends and those who will listen. I know not everybody's politically minded, particularly not those, some people just got work to do, they don't want to put their head in the muck all the time. But think about, when was the last time you participated in a primary election and your candidate won?
10, 2012.
When was the last time that the candidate who was elected to represent you represented constitutional values or your conservative values? Now, Governor Christie is running around the country right now, and he says, well, maybe I'm going to run for president. Come on, he's building a platform at the very least. Do you want Governor Christie to be the president of the United States? Is he somebody that you think?
First of all, none of those candidates that we mentioned, Christie, the other two bums, none of them are gonna beat Hillary.
People,
Right, that's right.
we have been marginalized by those on the left and the right. As I said earlier, if you say liberty, freedom, you say America, you're a nut. Because you,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, well, to the point where if you have a link to the Constitution on your computer, you're on the enemy's list. Okay? I'm not going to stand up here and defend the records of people like Newt Gingrich or Rick Santorum, but I mentioned them earlier. They were the voices of opposition in the last presidential election within the Republican Party, and they were marginalized. And then the Republican convention, immediately following, changed the rules so it would make it harder for them to get nominated.
Your government.
Ron
works.
And we
Well, you
think
get
we're
the
going to
votes
change
at
the
the
Republican
convention.
Party from within. You guys got an uphill battle, let me tell you. And I hope that you're successful. I honest to God do. But, we always hear the same arguments about voting for a third party. Oh,
They can't win.
they can't win. Well, you know what?
Well, neither can Jeb Bush.
If a third party can't win, then the election is fraudulent. So,
Yeah.
why do they even vote themselves, right?
Larry, I gotta say something on that. Because that's one of the things that really bugs me. When people say, oh, this one can't win. That's the wrong mindset. The mindset
Exactly.
is pick your candidate and make them
Right.
win.
Or oh, well,
the candidate, well,
Right.
they won't win. Well, if they won't win, well, that's kind of circular logic, because if you don't vote for them, of course they won't win.
If a Ross Perot could get 19%, people are a lot more aggravated now than they were then.
Oh, and
The
that's the
problem
other
is-
one. You don't want a third-party candidate running because they're going to siphon away votes from the guy who's supposed to win.
There comes a time.
Well,
You have to deliver the message anyhow.
Either way,
but wait a minute.
it doesn't matter.
Are you really getting anything different whether it's a Republican or a
No.
You
Democrat
get
who
Jeb
voted
Bush,
for
you're
all
getting
of
we
them?
will
Common
show
Core,
them.
No,
you're
you're
getting
not.
Agenda 21,
do
you're
it.
getting
Okay?
amnesty.
And if it really is a two-party system,
Mhm.
and that's what everyone's saying, if it really is a two-party system, how come in Massachusetts it's not the Green Party versus the Democrats, yet Republicans still get elected there? Or in Utah, it's still the Republicans and the Democrats. It's not the Republicans versus the Constitutionists and the Libertarians. It's not a two-party system. It's a Republican-Democrat system because that's the way they have it set up.
That's why they
And
don't want you in the debates.
And that's why they don't want us in debates, and that's why they don't want us in ballot access. If you look at old electoral maps, it used to not be all or one for the state. It used to be just divided up by congressional district. And I think that's a good way to go back. You know,
John Quincy Adams said, and I'm paraphrasing, that you always vote your conscience, and you'll sleep well at night.
we're also told that third parties never accomplish anything. Really? Ever heard of the,
Well, that's
American
part of their
Revolution.
marketing idea, to dismiss you.
The Constitution of the United
Yeah,
States,
there we
the
go.
Declaration of
What?
Independence, how many people were involved in that?
ever heard of the Prohibitionist Party?
Yes.
Heard of the Prohibition? They got something major done.
Yeah,
How about the socialists? The
Socialist
socialists have
Party.
influenced the Democrat platform
So,
And a
to a great
Republican.
extent.
third parties do
progressive.
matter. And if it is true that the votes are rigged, then why are we even bothering? Then we need to have a completely different conversation, and quite frankly, I'm not prepared to have that conversation right now. So I don't think that voter fraud is so rampant
It's not, because of what
that
just
we
happened.
can't get people elected.
What just happened in Congress.
Voter fraud has always been prevalent in big cities from the beginning.
The truth of the matter, my fellow constitutionalists, thank you for coming. The truth of the matter is, the founding fathers faced similar circumstances. I'm not going to say that we are facing the same circumstances, but they were told, you can't change the king, you can't change the colonial governors, you can't do this, you can't do it. Well, look what they did. Look what they did for themselves, for their children, and for the rest of us. We don't have to necessarily pick up arms. I'm not prepared to have that conversation, and I certainly don't advocate it at this time. I don't want to overthrow the government of the United States. I want to restore the government of the United States, and I can only do that with your help. Please consider changing your affiliation to the Constitution Party, because it doesn't matter if you vote in a Republican primary anyway. If you still want to vote for the Republican at the November, go ahead. But if you change your affiliation, that gives us more clout, that gives us more things to say to other people. Look how big we are. Look, we're growing. The Republicans aren't listening to you. The Democrats aren't listening to you. We are you. Nobody to listen, because we are you. So please consider taking a form. Please tell your friends and family about the website. And thank you for coming to today's meeting.
And take promotional materials with you to give out.
Please do.
Because I have tons of them, and I want to get down to the point where I have to reorder them.
Please.
Please, take them to the table. I have more in the car.
Yes, if you haven't signed in, please sign in, email address, but thank you very much for coming out. I know we ran a little long, so I want to get home to the little kids. Thank you.